I'm back with another episode of Life Stories Unscripted podcast. Welcome, everyone. I'm your host, Viviane, and I'm a doula, mama coach, and a breastfeeding specialist. And I talk about everything related to preconception, pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and beyond. So if you're a parent or you're trying to be one, this is the podcast for you. So stay tuned. Today, I'm talking to Kate Carter from Great Britain, who is a mama of two and a coach who helps people eliminate their anxiety because of Kate's own postpartum anxiety she went through. This is what we're going to tap on today. I'm really excited. If you've seen some previous episodes and you really enjoy them, please hit the subscribe button now so me and you can spread the word and awareness together. This podcast is sponsored by Perfecta Placenta from Beverly Hills, which is a placenta preserving company. So if you want your miracle organ to be preserved and get two amazing gifts in the form of a stretch mark cream and a diaper bag, don't forget to use my promo code Doula Viviane. And for more information, hit me up either on LinkedIn or Facebook, where I can be found under my own name, which is Viviane Schima, or via my email address, which is birthwithviviane@gmail.com. Without any more chit chat from me, let's talk to Kate. Hi, Kate. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm very excited to hear your story and spread awareness on anxiety that you help people with.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here. So thank you so much.
Wonderful. Well, tell us, Kate. I'm going to go straight to the topic. Tell us, you said that you experienced postpartum anxiety. And that the trigger was your pregnancy and birth. Could you tell us a little bit about that, about your birth story or experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have had anxiety since a child. I had a panic disorder from the age of 10. So I always had that. And then pregnancy was like an extra trigger. So I was 28 when I had my first child. He's now 12. And the whole thing was very triggering in the fact that I had a disconnect between my body and my brain. So I was always very much in my brain. I didn't really trust my body. And obviously being pregnant added to that, because now I was looking after a new being inside my body as well. And so it was like an extra, oh, what am I doing wrong? Am I doing this? Oh, what's that new feeling? And so when I had Jake, I did struggle with postpartum depression, although I never really got diagnosed with it because I was too embarrassed to share it. So when medical people would come around and just check over me with midwives and things like that, I'd be, I'm fine, everything's fine. But I wasn't really. I was really quite struggling. I remember looking at Jake at one point, he was only a couple of days old, thinking, I just can't do this. I'm going to have to give him up. I can't do this. I'm not capable of doing this. I did find my own way through, but there is a reason there's a 5-year gap between my two. And it was my daughter, who I had 5 years later, that was the real kind of trigger of, I've got to change this. I've got to really kind of approach this in a different way, because I can't keep having these cycles of anxiety. And with Sophie, she had stopped growing. And so that put an extra pressure onto things. She was absolutely born fine. She was just very tiny. But she was fine in the end. But my anxiety then really hit when my body caught up with my brain about 3 months later. I had a huge panic attack late at night. And that was the kind of trigger where I just thought, I've got to change something here, and I've got to do something different.
That's wonderful, though, that you had a trigger, that there was the turning point, that you acknowledge that something is wrong, my body is trying to tell me something. And I listen to so many people, and usually, people are afraid of these feelings of disappointment, anxiety, fear, guilt, because they think that they're antagonistic feelings, that we are supposed to be afraid and shut it out as soon as possible. And then we comfort eat, and then we do all sorts of things. We get busy, we keep busy just to shut it out, but then we are essentially not listening to our body. So, and I think what you said, that you just had this panic attack, and you just said, no, I'm this is it, I'm changing it. I think this turning point and acknowledgement is very important, and I think it's the first step, right, into to empowerment, to healing.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said to you, it was just that realization that I hadn't been listening to my body at all. In fact, I didn't know how to listen to my body. I'd had anxiety from such a young age that I had completely detached from my body. I hadn't got a clue what it was to listen to anything in my body. And so it was that kind of journey that I went through. That was how I kind of healed myself, really, and empowered myself to move forward. Was, okay, so how do I listen to my body, and how do I feel safe in my body, and how do I accept that the different feelings and triggers that I'm having with my body are just messages. They're not something that's telling me that everything's going wrong.
Right. But it's just a message. Your body is trying to talk to you, and by shutting it out, well, that, we talked about that. But I think it's also important what you want to teach your children. Did you think about that you can go on because of what you want to give to your children one day, regarding their emotions?
Yeah, absolutely. And I said, it was, for having a daughter, it was something that just triggered me having a daughter, I think. And I'm very much of, I want her to grow up as a strong, empowered individual. Not that I don't want that for Jake as well, but it just felt different as a mother giving birth to a daughter. I don't know why. But yeah, it was the turning point of, okay, so how do I show my children how to process their emotions, how to process anything that's different in their body? Because I know that children don't do what they're told. They act on what they're shown. They copy and they model from our own actions. It's not necessarily our words. So I knew that I needed to be that kind of role model for them in, okay, mum is having a bit of a time where I have to think things through and kind of almost talk it through so they could see it for themselves, that emotions were okay and they're not scary.
Right. That's wonderful. I love it. And Kate, if I can ask you, you said you were struggling with anxiety from a young childhood. What do you think that caused? What do you think the trigger was?
I've thought about that a lot over the time. I think there's a couple of things. I think I am quite sensitive to different changes in my body. And that happened from a very early age, and I wasn't necessarily old enough to necessarily understand that those changes were happening. And also, I consider myself a bit of an empath. So I think those two things combined, I find it, so if something's happening to somebody else, I find it really difficult to kind of detach. I'm almost going, oh, that would be awful. That would feel awful. And then I kind of internalize it. So I think that was happening from quite a young age. So yeah, I mean, one of my triggers very early on was watching a news article about a child who got a brain tumor. That was one of the clearest moments I can imagine when I was 10. And I just remember thinking, oh, that's awful. That would be awful. What would that feel like? And I internalized it and I couldn't switch it off.
Wow. That is like being too empathetic, right?
Yeah.
Being too much of giving and without listening to your needs. And hey, this is not me. This is another person and I feel with him, but I am good. I'm healthy and I'm grateful for that. Right. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that, to see a little bit of the background to it. But Kate, what did you decide to do? How did your journey start?
So obviously having that experience with my daughter, it was very much right, okay, I need to do something different here. And it sounds like, well, that's it. Everybody wants to change, and nobody wants to have the anxiety or the depression, especially after having a child. Nobody wants that. But it was an acceptance that even though I didn't want that, there was a part of me that found comfort in that, because it was the way that I'd always responded to things. So if I didn't respond in an anxious way, who was I? If I didn't have the anxiety, who was I? And even though I wasn't aware of that on a conscious level to start off with, that was very much the subconscious that was ruling me and keeping me in those anxious patterns, even though I didn't want to be, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, perfect sense. I mean, I talk to a lot of people who say very similar things to what you just said. And, they're talking like our brain is always trying to protect us. because our brain knows what it knows and it doesn't know what it doesn't know. And we as children, we get shaped by our parents, by our environment, and we just mirror and repeat what we see and what we've been taught. And even though we acknowledge, maybe someone's smoking and maybe they know it's not good for them, that it's unhealthy and toxic and causing all sorts of problems, they are not, and it's not that they are to blame, because it's the unconscious, and the unconscious and the brain will always try to make us feel safe and stay there, stay roasty toasty in our comfy zone. And even though if we want to change, like I want to quit smoking, it's hard because it's effort, it's work, it's consciously being aware all the time and watching your energy, watching your mood. Why am I being cranky right now? Is it because I didn't have my cigarette? Well, what do? I go smoke a cigarette. Well, I don't do that right now. So what do? And there's all sorts of other coping mechanism that we have to find. And I just find it fascinating that the brain, and it's innate, right? It's our instinct. We'll always try to keep ourselves safe from harm and death, essentially.
Yeah.
So I resonate with that a lot, what you say, but it must have been challenging, right?
Yeah, and it's not easy, is it? It's, you have to want the change more than where you currently are, and that desire has to be bigger. And I think having my second child was absolutely that. It was like, no, this is absolutely going to happen now. And for me it was, so I like understanding. I have to understand things. So I did some sort of basic qualifications in psychotherapy and counseling, just so I could understand from my own personal knowledge really why I was the way that I was. So understanding those formative years of 0 to 7 where you don't get to question very much, you are just in download mode where you're just going, oh, okay, consume.
Right.
And understanding that obviously I had learned things there that I almost think about it as like the heart of an onion, and you're sort of laying yourself up to protect yourself as you're going through life, and then the process is peeling back the layers as you get older. But yeah, so it was understanding that, it was understanding my nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system, and understanding that I had very much lived in fight, flight or freeze for a long period of time, and I needed to understand how to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, so that much more kind of relaxation, connecting to my body, that energy piece, and also the thought processes, so that reflection piece, like you were saying earlier about, okay, what triggered me today, what was going on before that, why was I feeling like that, what did I need? So those kind of questions, just to really bring an awareness to different points in my life that were still quite triggering for me. So for me, I know that kind of big changes or things that are out of the norm is still one of those things I just need to have an awareness of. Feeling dizzy, I know it's a very physical feeling, but it was very, very triggering for me. So just having an awareness of that and going, okay, we've been here before, it's okay. And over time, kind of stopping that fight, flight or freeze response. Obviously that's a normal response, but I'd had it in areas of my life that it just wasn't needed. So just kind of being aware and being able to pull back over time.
Wonderful. Thank you again. How did you notice a change once you embarked on this journey that you want to change it? Did you notice a change with your daughter and how the relationship was maybe changing?
Yeah, do you know what? It's really strange because obviously there's 5 years between my two. So Jake is really quite sensitive, in a lovely way. My daughter is very, very headstrong and knows exactly what she wants. And it's just quite interesting that obviously Jake still had that. Obviously, there are different influences as well, but Jake still had a very anxious mum for the first five years of his life, whereas Sophie didn't. So Sophie didn't have an anxious mum because I was probably anxious I still had anxiety for a good year after she was born. And then touch wood, I haven't had a panic attack in years. I don't struggle with anxiety anymore. So it has been life-changing, but she hasn't seen that part of me. So it's just different to see. And obviously there's still a bit of guilt for me attached to how Jake is. But yeah, I don't know if that's answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. I mean, the change, you can see the change, right? You can see how you changed, how your relationship with yourself changed,
Hmm.
but also how that affected your daughter to the better. And, I mean, we all have some sort of guilt, right? But to name it and work with it, I think makes things much more, well, not easier, but just more pleasant, I would say,
Hmm.
because we're all just human. We all make mistakes, and that's just how life is. But accepting it and still loving yourself despite it and trying to be better, I think that is the key, right? To just be a better human being.
Loving yourself, oh my god, yeah, that's a huge piece. It really is. And that self-compassion piece, because I found, to start off with, what I was doing, so I knew the information, I knew the reflection piece, the awareness piece, but I felt that I was still beating myself up, like, oh, why were you thinking that? You're so
Yeah.
silly, you're so stupid, why were you thinking that? And it was realizing that actually that was the next piece that I needed to move on. So after I had that awareness, it was moving on to the self-compassion piece. Okay, it's okay that I felt like that. It's
Mhm.
okay that I had still had those feelings. And then the last piece for me was the body piece. So I kind of went through, that was my kind of journey as I navigated through.
Wonderful. And do you feel that on a scale from 1 to 10, from where one is you were stuck and 10 is you're really just you're good and you're on top of everything, where do you think that what number do you think you went from to what number do you think you are now?
Well, when I had, so those 3 months after I had Sophie, I was definitely at rock bottom. So definitely a one. I couldn't, just thinking about that time is just, it feels like almost like a different person. It was completely just, I was in a very dark place. It just, everything felt very dark. Everything felt stuck. Everything, I just didn't feel like I could do anything. I felt very much controlled by my anxiety rather than in control.
Mhm.
Um, and I think I'd accepted that that was just, well, this is just it. This is how I just deal with things. I can't change it. And then obviously working on myself and realizing that I do have control, that I get to choose how to respond to things, was one of the biggest changes. And then now I would say definitely 10, like being able to just have that awareness about
Mhm.
what my triggers are, because they're still, they still pop up from time to time, but not allowing myself or not having to feel like I respond with that fight, flight, or freeze. Like it is very much like, oh, okay, awareness, and then I can put the work in before it gets to that stage.
Right. So you respond to your emotions rather than react, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that understanding that, yeah, one of my biggest mantras was, I can't control everything, but I do get to choose how I respond. And that was just something that I used to tell myself over and over again. I can't control the weather. I can't control how my kids are going to react one day, whether they're going to have a meltdown, but I get to choose my response. And that sometimes is as simple, but is also as difficult as that, because it's not always easy. But yeah, that's been one of my mantras.
Absolutely. And I noticed the one word that you said, which is choice, that you had a choice to choose, that you can do something about it. So it's also going from this victim mentality that, oh, I cannot do anything. This is just who I am, to accepting that no, I can choose not to react this way, and I can choose to be more responsive and just pause and think for a little bit, just take a couple deep breaths or whatever works for whoever, right? And I find this really powerful, because going from this vicious cycle of breaking it and
Mhm.
realizing you do have a choice, you can wake up in the morning and use that energy and create, instead of being, like you said, controlled by something that you seemingly think you can control.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it was just a light bulb moment, I think, just with that realization. And I see it in my children, especially Jake, 'cause he's a little bit older.
Mhm.
But if I see him sort of dip into that victim mentality, I'm like, right, so what can you do? What can you sort of take
Exactly.
action on? And he'll get him to think in a different way, because it's just one of those things now I'm really passionate about. Like, no, 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 you get to choose. So what are you choosing?
Right. Absolutely. I agree. This is wonderful that you're able to teach your children too from such a young age to be in control and being able to make an informed choice as well.
Yeah, and also kind of on the flip side of that is normalizing, isn't it? It's normalizing that you will have bad days, and there will be days where you just think, oh, just today it's not the day, and that's okay too.
Exactly. Sorry to interrupt. I was
No,
just saying we shouldn't shut those emotions or feelings out. We shouldn't. We should allow them, because it's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel anxious, but let's not stay there. Let's try to figure out why we're sad and go from there. And like you said, what can I do in this situation? How can I feel better?
yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that really helped me as well is working on that sort of parasympathetic nervous system. So learning how to rest and learning how to connect my mind and my body, and meditation was one of the best things for that. Hands down, was one of the best things that I did. But it was also realizing that doing that when I felt good was more beneficial, because I find especially what I do now working with clients is they're really ready to do the work when they feel bad and when they're not feeling good, and they really want that change. But then as soon as they start to feel better, oh, I'm fine now, it's absolutely fine. Like, yeah, but you still need to do that bit when you're feeling good, to kind
it's
of
like
embed
having
it.
flu, right? It's you feel better after 3 days, but you're not there yet. You have to rest. I mean, you still need those 5 extra days to be fully recharged, because you go out and there's one bad day and you're back, right? You're back at square one. So yeah, I agree. I fully agree. Kate, I have a question in my mind for the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I was curious, did your anxiety and everything, how you felt, how did that affect your birth when you were in labor? Did that affect you somehow?
Oh yeah, because like I said, I had a natural birth with Jake and then a C-section with Sophie because she was premature. But with Jake, absolutely, because I fought it. I didn't trust my body. I didn't lean into my body. I fought my body at every possible junction. So I would clench up every contraction I had. I screamed. I remember my mum was in there with me and she went, stop putting your energy into your scream and put it into your body. Right. And it was just one of those things. I look back and I'm like, yes, she probably, it was quite harsh at the time, but she was right. I was absolutely fighting everything. And as a result, labor was really long. I dilated really, really slowly. In the end, I had to have a bit of support. So he was kind of twisted a little bit. So I had to have a bit of support where somebody sort of pushed in and twisted his head and helped him come out. I did end up with a 3rd-degree tear, so I had to go for surgery after. So there was just lots of evidence of how I did fight my body. And it's one of those things, and hindsight is great, but I feel like if I'd leaned into things a little bit more, it would have been so much better. But I didn't have the knowledge back then. I didn't have that awareness.
Right. I assume you didn't have any, a midwife or a doula that, guided you through pregnancy to birth.
I had a midwife. I didn't have a doula. I had a midwife. Yeah. But I was in hospital with Jake for so long. I think I had 5 midwives.
Oh, really?
Well, because they kept going off.
Oh, and then right. Changing shifts. Right. Yeah, no, I mean, because I believe that birth is this wonderful, magical milestone in your life, and not just for you, but for your partner and for the baby, right? And it should be this joyous experience, and it's your birth story, so you hold the pen, you should be able to write it. But then, the anxiety sometimes it takes over, it takes the pen, and like your mom said, put it into your body, into, tell your baby to move, instead of the scream, because that is just lost energy. You must have been drained.
I was exhausted, yeah. But again, I was all in my head. I thought I could get through it by thinking it through, because that is what I'd had my experience of doing. And I just can't stress the importance of that body piece, of leaning into your body, of being friends with your body, of just listening to it. It's such a huge, now that I'm 40 and I can look at that and think, wow, I wish I'd known this 30 odd years ago.
That was my next question. What would you say to yourself if you could, like take yourself right now in this time and space and go back in time, what would you tell to your younger self if you could?
I think it would definitely be nice to yourself, like be your own best friend. I know that sounds incredibly cheesy, but it's so powerful.
And it's
um
so true.
it's so true. And then it would be just to trust your body. I say that to my daughter, so she's learning how to do cartwheels at the moment, and I can see her, she starts and she's there and she's got it all, and then you can just see the fear, and
Yeah.
she sort of collapses, and I'm like, trust your body. So she's saying to herself, I trust my body, I trust my body. So that's what I would say, trust your body, it knows what it's doing more so than your head does right now.
That's wonderful. I love it, because it's true. Trust you. And children are the best example because they're fearless, right? Children don't know what will happen if I fall down. They because they've experienced it maybe once or twice, but it feels different every time depending on how they fall and where and what time of day it is. And I love this about children because adults tend to overthink.
Mm-hmm.
Adults tend to, like you said, go into your mind instead of your body, and connecting those two, because those two work, right? If your mind is feeling sick, it can start showing your body as well. So
Yeah, and I think we see it as two separate things, and actually it's not. It should be one fluid kind of support system.
right. So Kate, you said that you were a coach and that you help people, and I think entrepreneurs, you said, to help get rid of their anxiety. What is what has proven effective?
Awareness, absolutely awareness to start off with. So it is, for a lot of people, I always say don't do it in the moment, because if you're new to it, if you're new to having that awareness of your body, it's almost too much, it's overwhelming in the moment. So if you do it as a reflection piece at the end of each day and go, right, okay, what were the points in my day where I got triggered? What was I doing at that time? How did I feel? Kind of really just building up your thought patterns, because what I find when I work with a lot of people is they're very much aware of their behavior, they're very much aware of their feelings, but when I say, okay, what were you thinking at that time, they'll go, oh, I don't know. So it's kind of just having an awareness on the feelings and emotions, but also the thoughts that are coming up around that. And that piece can last, I mean, I think depending on what you've experienced, it can be quite a long piece, that awareness piece of just going through each day and having that reflection. And then doing something to activate your parasympathetic nervous system. So this is all about the relaxation. This is about meditation. Eating is actually, because eating is very grounding, which is why I think people comfort eat, because it is incredibly grounding experience. But it's those types of things, digestion, relaxation, rest, breathing, all of those things that you can do to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, but doing it when you feel well as when you're doing it when you don't feel so good.
Wonderful. And not going into the I'm overwhelmed from this. I'm acknowledging it, but I just don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, and that's the best friend piece, isn't it? That's the bit where you go, and so I get my clients to kind of create their own mantras, like it's okay that I'm feeling overwhelmed and I know that I can. So there's always, and I make that, I'm not a big huge fan of just creating any affirmation out of the air, but creating it based on something from their personal experience. So yeah, something like, it's okay that I'm feeling scared right now, but I know that I can, and whatever that sort of more positive piece is at the end. So you're kind of bringing those two bits together.
That's wonderful, because you're basing it on, it's tailor-made, right?
Mm-hmm.
To each person, which I think it's even more powerful, because like you said, you can find affirmations on Google and whatnot, and you can print them out and glue them onto your wall or whatever, but I think they have to have a special meaning to what you want to achieve, what you want to change, what you're currently working on. And I think it gives you even more power and control that you yourself created it, because you go from the victim to creator, to what can I do? And hey, I created an affirmation, like tailor-made. No one else has this one, So I think that's very powerful what you do. That's wonderful, Kate.
Yeah, it is, like you said, it's super powerful. It has to mean something to you. I really truly believe that.
It does. And I think that people who go through this like you did, that you struggle with your own anxiety, and now you're able to help other people to overcome it, I think that is, what they're going through. You can feel their pain, you can feel their blisters, and you can tell them it's okay, I've been there. Let's work on it. So
yeah, absolutely. It's so important, isn't it, to have somebody who understands.
And exactly, and that's, you didn't have that person, right? You didn't have that support system, so you understand even better what support can do, the right support. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Kate, for sharing this. I'm sure this will be very helpful to whoever's listening or watching, just to either acknowledge or, you know, be reassured that it's okay to feel this and that. It isn't necessarily negative or bad. It's just, I think it's uncomfortable. It's unpleasant to feel these things, so we shut them out. But yes, so please, Kate, tell us, where can people reach you?
So Instagram or Facebook, it's both under Kate Carter Coaching. And I do have a website as well, which is just www.katecarter.co.uk. But yeah, I absolutely am so passionate about supporting people with anxiety, or even past anxiety, because what I found is there's layers underneath the layers. So once you've dealt with the anxiety, there's things like people pleasing and boundaries and things like that that come up that you may not have been aware of before, because the anxiety was kind of the more prominent piece almost. So yeah, that's what I love doing.
Isn't the anxiety almost as the last or the highest level of the emotions, just stirring up to yes?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's dealing with that first of all, and then kind of almost like a layering system going down. And people pleasing is a huge one, because it is a trauma response. So having an awareness about that. Boundaries is another one, because it is closely linked to people pleasing, isn't it? Because people who are wanting to be that don't necessarily have the boundaries. So yeah, it's those sort of things that, as I've got rid of the anxiety, I've realized, oh, this is interesting. And then knowing that obviously other people are going to be dealing with this as well. And especially if you've got your own business and things like that, these things can pop up and you may not even know that they're there, because you've got a blind spot around them. So yeah, that's it really.
And your business might struggle because of that, because you're not getting clients, or you're getting clients but you don't feel appreciated, but because you have the tendency to please. Yeah, it makes total sense. It's mind-blowing how everything is just connected. And like you said, it's like peeling the onion piece by piece, you know, except when you're doing it backwards, it might hurt a bit more, because you're aware of it and you have to reopen it, what you've been trying to shut out for such a long time. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for today, Kate. This was very enlightening. I feel very smart. I feel I learned a lot today, and I had my aha moment. So I hope that anyone who's watching will have their own. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for today. This was Kate's story. I really enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it with me, please hit the subscribe button now, so you and me can spread the word and awareness on anxiety together. If you yourself are a mama, a health coach, or a spiritual healer, or you know of someone who has a story and they would like to share with me and the rest of the world, you included, please reach out to me either via Facebook or LinkedIn, where I can be found under my own name, which is Viviane Schima, or via my email address, which is birthwithviviane@gmail.com. I'll be excited to hear from you. That's it for me for now. Thank you for watching, and until next time, bye.